Namaskar children. Welcome to the fifth part of the lesson on statistics. In today's lesson, you will be learning about group data and how to use group data in order to find out measures of central tendencies. The key learning in today's lesson will actually come in the form of finding out the mid value for a given set of data and also to differentiate between discrete data and continuous data. So let us have a look at that. Talking about discrete data, most of the data that you have dealt with till now has been discrete data. Discrete data is basically data which consists of separate numbers. So if the data is given to us as separate numbers, then it is called discrete data. Whereas in group data, the data is generally a value which falls within a given range. So it could be any value which falls within a given range. So the main point of distinction actually comes in the form of the fact that discrete data is generally data in the form of whole numbers, whereas group data could be decimal values or fractional values as well. To give you examples of discrete data, when we talk about goals scored in a match, it is an example of discrete data. When we talk about marks secured in an exam, that is another example for discrete data. If we talk about the number of children seated in a car, that is also discrete data. For group data, the examples which are very easy to understand are, suppose if I'm talking in terms of the time that a student takes in order to complete his paper. So that is group data because it could be a fractional value. If we talk about the height of all the students in a class, that is also group data. We could be talking about area, capacity. These are all items which can have decimal values and hence they fall in the category of group data or continuous data. Alright, so let us look at the first practice question over here. We have a table of values, and for the first part of data we need to find out the model group. Now what we have over here is the amount of pocket money which has been given to different students, and the second row gives us the number of students who get that in the form of the pocket money. So answering the first part of the question is fairly simple. All we need to do is run down the row of the frequency values, find out the maximum frequency, which is 15, and the data value, or rather the data interval. In this case, it is not a data value, it is an interval. So the data interval which corresponds to the maximum frequency is what becomes the model group. So the model group is 4 to 5. So which means the maximum number of students get a pocket money between 4 pounds to 5 pounds. Alright, now let's look at part B of the question. In part B, we need to calculate an estimate of the mean weekly pocket money given to the students. In order to do this, just as we had done in the other lessons also, let us tabulate the data in Excel because then it becomes simpler to work with the data. Alright, so this is our data which is tabulated in Excel. As you can see, there is one column for the pocket money, another column for the number of students. Now this is where you will come across a new concept called the mid value. Alright, now the mid value can be calculated for any given data interval, and the mid value is the lower limit plus the upper limit divided by 2. So in other words, it is actually the mean of the lower limit and the upper limit. For example, in the first case, when the data interval goes from 0 to 1, the mid value is actually going to be equal to 0 plus 1 divided by 2, which is equal to a 0.5. In the second data interval, when it is between 1 to 2, the mid value will be 1 plus 2 over 2, which is equal to 3 over 2, which is 1.5. Since we are working in Excel, let us key this data onto the table, and then it will become easier for us to go ahead with the calculations. Alright, so the mid value for this particular row will be equal to, let me just enter the value which I've calculated over here. It is a 0.5, and in the next interval we know it's going to be 1.5. The calculations are not very difficult, but I can any which ways use Excel to fill up the rest of the values for me. So there you go. This is the column of the mid values, and these are what the mid values will be. So which means 4.5 is 4 plus 5 divided by 2, the mean of 4 and 5. Now, let us fill into the values in the next column, the column of fx, which means the frequency multiplied by the mid value. So that is equal to frequency multiplied by the mid value. Alright, so let us complete the values for the remaining entries, and that's the way it goes. Now, we know in order to find out the, before we go ahead and find out the mean, let us find out the total number of students, which is going to be equal to the sum of all these values. Alright, so the total number of students is 36. And the summation of all these values comes to 120. Alright, so let us go back to the basic formula which we already know. Mean is going to be equal to, summation fx over summation f, which means it is going to be equal to 120 over 36. Let me key in this value, equal to summation of all the values divided by the total number of values. Alright, so that gives me an answer of 3.33. Let us go back to our main screen and make an entry of the final answer over there. Alright, now that we are back to our main question, let us just tabulate what we got in the Excel sheet. The mean when calculated in Excel came out to be 3.33. So which means the mean pocket money which is given to the students is 3.33 pounds. Alright, let's look at another example. 100 light bulbs were tested by their manufacturer to see whether the average lifespan of the manufacturer's bulbs was over 200 hours. The table summarizes the results. So we have one column, one row with the lifespans of the bulbs, and the second column has the frequency, the number of bulbs which had that lifespan. Let us look at the different parts of the question. The first part says, what is the model length of time a bulb lasts? So we need to find out the data interval with the mode, which means the maximum frequency. As is evident, the maximum frequency in this case is 45. So the answer to the first part of the question is fairly simple. The model length is 175 to 200 hours, which means the maximum number of bulbs have a lifespan between 175 to 200. Alright, for part B, what percentage of bulbs last longer than 200 hours? So for this, we actually need to add up the values over here, because these are the values for which the average lifespan is more than 200 hours. So which means 18 plus 10 plus 3, which is equal to a 31. So if I'm looking at the percentage of bulbs which have a longer lifespan than 200 hours, it is going to be equal to, the required percentage will equal 31 divided by the total number of bulbs is given to be 100. So 31 divided by 100, further multiplied by 100 since we are doing a percentage. So the 100 and the 100 cancel. The final answer to part B is 31%. Alright, now for part C again, where we need to find out the mean, let us use Excel, find the mean, and then we shall come back and tabulate our answer. Alright, so that's our screen in Excel where we have tabulated the lifespan and the frequency. Here again, we're going to start by finding out the mid value. The mid value in this case is going to be equal to 150 plus 175 divided by 2. The lower limit plus the upper limit divided by 2. Here it is going to be equal to 175 plus 200, the upper limit, divided by 2. Alright, so there we are, all the mid values of the rows are ready with us. Let us now go ahead and find out the summation. We'll do the summation later. First, fill in the values into the column for fx. So it is going to be equal to frequency multiplied by the corresponding mid value. Okay, so there we go. Those are the values. Let us now find the total number of frequency. So those are the 100 bulbs. Alright, now we know mean is going to be equal to summation fx divided by summation f. So that brings us to the answer that the mean in this case is equal to, we found out the mean x bar as it is normally denoted as 193.3. Let us now go back to our main screen and tabulate this data. Alright, now that we are back to our main sheet, let us tabulate the answer that we got for part C. The mean lifespan of the bulbs came out to be equal to 193.3 hours. Let's answer the last part of the question. Do you think the test shows that the average lifespan is over 200 hours? And we also need to explain our answer. The answer is no. The average lifespan of the bulbs is not over 200 hours. And the evidence for this actually comes from both the answer to part B and the answer to part C. If we say in part B, 31% of the bulbs have a lifespan of over 200 hours. So which means less than half of them have a lifespan which is more than 200 hours. And also the fact that in part C, the mean comes out to be a value of 193.3, which is less than 200 hours. So which means that the average lifespan of the bulbs is not over 200 hours. Alright, so this is your turn now. That's your assignment question. I'm going to give you the answers to these questions so that you can tally with the answers, and then you know that you are in the right direction. The answer for the first part, wherein we need to find out the modal weight of the pebbles, will be between 100 and 120 grams. So that's the answer to the first part. The answer to part B is 10.86 grams. And the answer to the last part, part C, should come out to be equal to 108.6 grams. So if your answer tallies with these three parts of the answers, then you know that you've understood the concept well. Alright, thank you very much. And do look out for more lessons which will follow. And in case of any difficulty, you can always connect with me. Thank you.